Forget the day we met, your eyes so blue, me piercing through. I can't forget the day we met, your smile so bright, it made me...
Hey everybody, it's the Herb Guy with the Elder Herb Shop. Welcome back to Where Science Meets Nature, a channel where we discuss the medicinal value of plants and other natural substances found in nature all around us, with a little bit of science thrown in because we can. Today's the day. Today's the day we're going to go ahead and work on how to make your own anti-wrinkle cream. Now, this is probably going to be another lengthy video, but we're going to go through and we're going to get the plants that we need in order to make our cream. And we're going to start with this one here. These are in no particular order. We've done this plant. I've done a video on it. Yarrow flower. As you can see, there's plenty of it mixed in there with the aster. We don't want anything except yarrow flower for this particular video. So I'm just going to take the flowers, now if you don't happen to have all of these ingredients at home in your backyard, or if you don't have access to these particular plants, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting together a mix of all the plants that we discuss here, and it'll be put together in such a way that people can buy it in a kit, and it'll be a complete kit. If you want to save the video until you get your kit, you can do that as well, and you can just follow along with the video as we get to the part to where we're actually making the cream, and we can do it that way. You can follow along, you can make your cream, you can pick your own ingredients and do your own research for that. That is okay too. There's some yarrow seeds. Almost got some a little bit of herb guy in the mix. That'd be terrible. Okay. Plenty of yarrow here, and this is just for part of the demonstration. What we're going to ultimately end up doing is we're going to put together a kit. It's going to have everything you need. It's going to have the oils, all the same oils that we use to make our stuff. Everything will be pre-packaged to where you'll just have to mix the herbs with the oils and follow the instructions as they're provided either here in the video, or it'll also be in the paper that comes with the package. It'll tell you how best to go about making your cream. I am trying to get as much yarrow flower as I can here. We have access to other yarrow at other places, but again, this is for the video. So for the purposes of the video, this is what we have. Plus the ant, but we'll let that one go, I suppose. So the next plant in line would be the hydrangea. If you have a hydrangea in your front yard and you were looking for something to help make an anti-wrinkle cream, this is the plant for you. We have a ton of them here. I'm going to start grabbing them now before they all start turning. They still have their properties, so we can get to that. And they usually get cut down at the end of the year anyway, and they definitely grow back throughout the season. Now, we are going to have a bunch of hydrangea, and as far as this particular plant goes, this is actually the main plant. There have been many studies done into the benefits of hydrangea for wrinkles. There was another study I just did a post about, and I'll go ahead and put a link to that in the description section below. Sorry for the mess. But what they discovered was that after a 12-week period, there was a significant difference in elasticity of the skin. The skin appeared younger. It helps to absorb free radicals in the body. It's definitely a great plant if you're trying to maintain some healthy, young-looking skin. We have a couple of very nice size hydrangeas, so we will have plenty. Almost a timber, isn't it? If you live local, we have hydrangeas for sale. Now would be the time, if you live local, to grab it and get it in the ground before it starts freezing. This is the time of the year that you can get your final plants in, as long as you get them in prior to the first heavy freezes. We'll come back next spring. Now you see that I'm grabbing a lot of it, but we are going to be putting those kits together, and we're going to need a lot of it in order to be able to do that. All of these will get washed and cleaned up prior to sale to the public, but so we have some hydrangea. Now clearly you don't need this much hydrangea, because even if you were doing a batch for yourself, I mean, if you're only doing a batch for yourself and some of your family, that would be enough. You know, you're going to strip off the leaves and dry those. These will all be dried. They'll all be part of the kit. Everything will be pre-mixed. And the next plant, if you can, dandelion. Because of the antioxidant and detoxification properties of this plant, you're going to want dandelion. That will be your second most important plant. The other thing about dandelion is it helps with skin issues and skin problems. People that have psoriasis or rashes or things that they just can't get rid of, problem skin. This is a good plant to have. If you can get the whole root, that's great. If you can't, well, that's okay too. You'll have some for next year. Sometimes it's hard to get the whole root, but that's the second most important plant. Yarrow would be roughly the third. And then, of course, we'll go back into the backyard and we'll grab another one of the quote-unquote most important plants. I guess they're all kind of important, aren't they? We'll grab another one of the important plants, and then we'll get all this stuff together, show you what that's all doing as far as how to get that cut up and processed, and then we'll go with some of the oils and some other things that you'll need. Now, some of this stuff you most likely won't have on hand, so be advised that you may end up having to purchase some things. You know, this isn't necessarily the easiest recipe, but for the benefits, and you know, I mean, everybody wants to try to look young, so for all the benefits you get out of it, I guess it's worth it. It's worth the extra time. But we'll get to that next part here in just a bit. Alright, so we're back again, and we're coming down to get the last ingredient, which is a plant. The last plant ingredient, and that's rose hips. Now, I've kind of threatened everybody with those the last couple videos. The reason why we're adding rose hips, and you be very careful when you harvest them. The reason why we're getting rose hips is because they're very high in vitamin C and vitamin A. You have vitamin B and magnesium and calcium. All of that's good for your skin. As far as like servings go, if you have a regular serving, which is I think a quarter cup, gives 900% of your vitamin C, which is a lot. 100% of your vitamin A. But the reason why I like it is because they have the omega-3s and 6. That's the part I like the best. And of course the vitamin C, which is really good for your skin. But I just trim these off with scissors. They come right off. If you're in a hurry and you want to do a whole bunch of them, you see I have my helpers here. Hi girls. The downside to it is if I throw a whole bunch of them down into the tub, they'll start eating them. Then we won't have any for the lotion. That'd be terrible. Alright, so there we go. We're back up. If you really want to do it, you know, you're in a hurry, you can just take them. Just throw the leaves in there. I've done the kind where you see. You just cut it off and drop it in. Save some time. If you cut back this plant, go ahead and cut it down and cut it back, it's gonna come back next year and it'll be all big, and you know, it won't be as tall as this is. We've let this go for a couple years and it's sitting at about 10 feet tall, very wide. And, you know, so it's coming down this year. I'm going to get over here. The neighbors have allowed us, you know, including the chickens, but they've allowed us to collect all the rose hips that are over on this side too, so that's pretty cool. We'll have enough. That's where we're at with that. So now we have the ingredients. I'm going to collect some more, and we will continue on with this. The next part is going to be the processing of them, and that's going to be how we're going to chop them up, and you're not going to need any type of special equipment or anything. It's most likely stuff you already have. So stay tuned. Give me a few minutes and we'll go on to the next part. Alright, so we're back in the kitchen, and I've gone ahead and brought in the herbs that we're using for this particular recipe. Now, it's really technical. It really isn't. I made it kind of simple. What I did was I have 2 of the hydrangea leaves, roughly a dandelion and a half, because you'll see why here in a moment, why we have so little. We have our yarrow flower, and we have our rose hips. Now what you need to do with those is cut them up as fine as you can. I mean, if you're really feeling froggy, you can put them in your blender and blend them. It'll do kind of the same thing. It'll actually do better. And what we're going to add these herbs to, there's 2 ways you can do this, and today we're going to do it the fast way because I really need to get this video out. And if we do it with the oils, it's going to take forever. So today it's going to be, we're going to do it the quick way, and you're going to make a tea. And you're going to make a tea out of your 125 milliliters of aloe juice that we have here. And you want to put it in a pan. Now for us here today, I have a little porcelain pan that we've used for smaller stuff and home stuff. The porcelain doesn't allow any of the bad properties from the material to get through. But look, if you don't have a stainless steel, or if you don't have a ceramic or a porcelain pan, and all you have is aluminum or Teflon, well, then use it. Because if it's all you have, that's what you have to use. And the whole point of this is to be able to do it yourself. And yeah, you're going to get some of the stuff you don't really want out of those particular things. But, you know, when it's all you have, that's what you have. So, I just said that. We're going to add this to your aloe juice. Aloe is going to act like a tea. That's the water part. I just take the stems off because they get in the way when you go to strain it. As part of the tea, it'll act like a tea, excuse me, and it'll take the properties out like a water. This is the water part of our lotion. Now, if you look at most lotions on the market, they contain, you know, some of the very first ingredients on both is either water or alcohol. Neither one of which is very good for hydrating your skin. They do the water in order to be able to emulsify it and make it creamy. They use alcohol for the same reason, helps to emulsify, but boy is that stuff terrible for your skin. Akron Children's Burn Unit says that you're not to use lotions that have those types of, that have water or alcohol, especially for burns, because it causes more harm than good. Which is why you have to constantly reuse this stuff, because, you know, you're drying your hands out every time you use it. So you do the same thing with the yarrow flowers. Sorry about that. I'm going to kind of chop them up a bit, chop them off. Now these ones have dried for a bit. As most of you know, I was taking care of another project that has absolutely zero to do with herbs, but it was an awful lot of fun, so I did it anyway. And I'm still taking orders, just so you know. But if you want it by Christmas, you better order quick, because it does take some time. Especially when I have to take my time doing Elder Herb Shop stuff. You know, the knife making thing is just a side gig. Something to do because I thought I could. It turns out that I can. So, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, you can chop these up. Same with the dandelion. The root will chop up fairly easily. Just make it as small as possible. And what we're going to do with it is once it's all in the aloe vera juice, and I highly recommend aloe vera juice. You do not have to use aloe. You can substitute it with water if you want, but then you're just making a lotion base with water. Now, with the other ingredients and the oils and stuff that we're putting in this, you know, I suppose you could use water if you really wanted to, because this is the lotion itself is still going to hydrate your skin. But got our dandelion. I want to make sure to try to get it as small as possible. The reason why they say that is, you know, the smaller it is, the more surface area of the herb that is exposed, and it makes it for easier extraction of properties. And whatever you do, don't cut your fingers. The rose hips will be a little bit different. I use 2 tablespoons. Looking at this, it might be enough, it might be too much. Again, if you put it all in your blender, the aloe with all these herbs, and you use your blender or your Ninja or your food processor or your whatever you have that serves that same type of purpose, you can use that and just do it all together. And then, boy, will you get some surface area, and that's really going to alter the quality and the color of the lotion. Now, the reason why I'm doing these green is because it has a lot more of the chlorophyll in it, and if you look up in the all over anywhere, chlorophyll is really, really good for your skin. It helps with it helps pull out like free radicals, and it's an antioxidant. So for these, you can just break them with your fingers. They're hardened. You can also put them under the blade of the knife and just crush them like so. See, they crush fairly easily. Now, the rose hips, as we discussed already, are really uber high in vitamin C and other good goodies. And just so you know, this cream that we're making today is the same kind of cream that somebody else is going to charge you $50 or $60 for an 8-ounce jar, and just you know, to promise you, look, you're going to get rid of your wrinkles. Now, this will take care of your wrinkles from all the studies that I've read. Hydrangea in particular has the benefit of taking wrinkles away within 12 weeks, but you know, that means you have to use it every single day for a 12-week period to get the best results out of that. So, get those in there. Boy, it actually smells really good. It's going to look like a gooey mess, and some people would actually drink what we're making as a tea, though they would significantly, there would be a heck of a lot less herbs in here if they were making a tea out of it. You'd only need like a teaspoon of this mix. But taking it internally would actually have some of the same benefits. It would help with wrinkles and skin elasticity and all that. 1, 2 little leaves left. I'm really not used to doing it like this anymore. So, good thing I remembered how, huh? Alright, so, I get all of this. Yeah, there's a few left over. It'll be fine. If you look here, doesn't look like something, well, I mean, depends on what you like. A lot of people would think that doesn't look very appetizing. Alright, so, heat her up. Now what you're going to want to do with this, now that it's on the stove, you're only going to want to, in essence, you're going to cook this for roughly the same amount of time that you would a tea. It will draw a lot of the properties out of the plant, or out of the plants, and put it into the aloe. And when it's all finally strained and squeezed out, it should have a slightly greenish tinge. The more green and then the more chlorophyll that your plants have that you're using, the more that's going to translate into your lotion. So with this, we'll probably let it sit and simmer for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It'll give me an opportunity to go ahead and clean some other things up. So once it's done with its simmer, we will go ahead and strain it out. I'm going to show you how to do that really cheap and easy, and we will go on to the next part. Hang on, folks. Okay, so it's been simmering for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, it has definitely picked up some color. It's not very green. Now to do this really simply, this is what I did. Took an old mason jar, an old t-shirt, and a rubber band. It'll act like your strainer. It will spill. Be careful, it is still boiling hot. Lightly pack it in there. There's a reason for that. Sorry. I don't have a cameraman, so sometimes this is a little tricky, folks. And I apologize for that atrocious sound. Alright. So, I have it in there like that. This will act like your filter. As long as you don't allow it to fall down into what you just strained, it'll stay fairly clean. If you're really uber worried about it and it bothers you, if there's tiny little particles in there, use a coffee filter. When it's hot like that and you don't want to grab it, take 2 spoons, 1 spoon, 2 spoons. Get all the junk off of it first, or it will fall into your mixture. And you can just pinch the spoons without having to worry about burning your fingers. So, squeeze out as much as you can. Try to want to preserve it. Kind of want to preserve it. And that's what you'll end up with. It'll be close to a cup. If you don't have a full cup when you go to put it back in, you can top it off with your aloe. It'll help cool it off a little bit. And, you know, but here's your properties that we've just taken out. This is going to be one of the main ingredients for the lotion. So hang on. Here comes the next part. Okay, so we're on to the next part. We happen to have a Ninja, but you can use a food processor, you can use a blender, you're going to want to use like the puree setting, you know, something that has a really good speed into it. Now, we're going to take our rose mixture, well, our herb mixture, and we're going to pour it right into the Ninja and just let it sit there like that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the oils and why we use them. Now, first, just have great value avocado oil. And with this one, we're going to put 150 milliliters. And I do apologize for using the metric system, but it does make the math a lot easier. If you're trying to get the equivalent of 150 milliliters, it's just shy of 2/3 of a cup. Now, this part of it, the 150 milliliters, you're going to put in the Ninja with your still kind of hot stuff. Now we can put that on top of your base. If you already have it attached to your blender, that's good. You know. Now, the reason why we're using avocado oil, avocado has beta-carotene and proteins. It has a lot of essential fats. Really super high in vitamins A, D, and E. So it's really good for your skin and replenishing. It helps to moisturize your skin too. And it's shown in a lot of clinical studies that it'll help protect your skin from UV damage, which is kind of what causes the whole aging process. And it also helps to increase the metabolism of your collagen production. So your skin will actually produce collagen more efficiently rather than have to struggle and fight through all the impurities you have in the air around us. So that's one of the main reasons why we're going to use the most of, as far as oils go, would be avocado oil. Now, you can use your own mixture. Try to keep the numbers consistent, but you can use your own kind of mixture in regards to what you want to use for your lotion. Next is grapeseed, and grapeseed, just like avocado oil, is really high in vitamins E and C, and it's also considered to make your skin more efficient in regards to preserving your skin. It also has antiviral properties as well, antibacterial, antifungal. It helps to remove blemishes. It's been used for psoriasis just by itself. And what we're going to do with that one, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do 125 milliliters. Which is roughly a half a cup of oil. And we're going to take half of it and put into your mixing pan, the one that you cleaned up after using for the herb tea. About like that. The other half, go ahead and put in your blender with the hot stuff that you already have. Now the next couple of things we have aren't really necessary, but if you're trying to make a heavier cream, these are kind of essential for the process. And the first thing is coconut oil. It is, if you don't have the hardened coconut oil, that's fine. You can use the oil-based coconut oil, but you might want to supplement it with a little bit more cocoa butter in order to give the cream the creaminess versus being very liquidy. Now you're going to take the coconut oil and put in your pan that you have, that we're getting ready to heat up. Now, coconut oil is also really good for your skin. It has a lot of essential fatty acids, and it has some antioxidants where it helps to pull impurities and whatnot out of your skin. It doesn't necessarily leave a greasy residue, and that's part of the whole process with this is by the time we're done and you use the lotion, you put the lotion on your face, within a minute or two, your face won't feel oily and greasy. It's going to soak right in. It's going to help replenish. And one of those is one of the main ingredients that it has, which is coming up a little bit later. Now, the next one is shea butter. Shea butter is really sticky, and it can be really tricky to mix with other oils. So you got to make sure to get your oil hot enough that the shea butter itself is going to break down to be able to mix. Because if it doesn't get hot enough to actually melt, and then you go to mix it, you're going to see little tiny clear beads, almost like tapioca, in your lotion or your final product, because the shea butter is really weird when it melts. And that was just a trial and error. Boy, my surprise when that happened was epic. Anyway. Trying to fix a lotion after that is a bit of a nightmare. Next up would be cocoa butter. You know, just like the shea butter, it also has high concentrations of fatty acids and vitamins A and D. And it also has vitamin F, as does the shea butter, which is something you don't typically get in your diet. And it's one of those very essential vitamins for good, healthy skin and healthy body overall. It's one of those that you definitely want to make sure you have enough of. And we have a hard time getting a hold of that in our diets. But you take all of that, you put it in that very unappetizing looking mess. And you do the same thing with it. You get it heating up. Now you want to do it on a fairly low heat because it's fairly easy to scorch the oils. And it went out. Okay. It's fairly easy to scorch the oils. If you're not super careful, you got to do a lot of mixing. This is the time you want to add your beeswax as well. If you don't want to use beeswax, use a double amount of cocoa butter or shea butter. You know, triple your amount of shea butter, double your amount of cocoa butter. But be advised, cocoa butter and shea butter have a much lower melting point than beeswax, which will make, you know, if you keep your lotion in a warmer spot, it's going to be very, very loose and watery versus having that creamy feel. We're trying to go for a face cream versus a face lotion. So we're going to we went heavier up on some of these heavier herbs, or heavier oils, excuse me. Okay, so while our oil mixture is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and add our 3 tablespoons of emu oil to this batch. Now, if you don't know what an emu is just like a small ostrich or really big bird. They stand about 6 feet tall. Their oil, there's been records of their oil being used by people for tens of thousands of years. They use the fat and they refine it down. So it's essentially emu lard, if you really want to look at it technically. But the reason why they use it is because it's beneficial in so many different ways. it's the biggest benefit of emu is how it absorbs into the skin. I mean, it's like a natural DMSO. It goes right through all the layers of the skin, and because it goes right through the skin, it tends to carry whatever it's using with it. So if you have the other herbs, which we do, and the other oils, which we do, the emu oil helps to push it through the body a little better. It gets into the skin a lot better, and it takes whatever properties of the other ingredients you have, you know, like the dandelion or the hydrangea, and it puts it deeper under the skin level where you really need it. That surface stuff isn't really nearly as helpful. And, you know, science has shown over and over that emu oil does that. They use it in Australia for, like, burns. It's really good for, like, wounds and burns. The meat is supposedly, I mean, actually, the meat's pretty good. I've had a couple of emu burgers. The meat is really good. It's red meat like beef, but it has more protein, more amino acids, less fat, less all the bad stuff. It's a really lean, healthy meat. Now, because the shea butter has to be heated to a certain point, which is what that big chunk in there is, we're going to go ahead and just let it kind of get warm. And you got to keep agitating it. Don't let it get too hot. Oh, we're getting to that final part. In theory, you can turn it off now because the oil's still going to stay hot. Trust me, it's going to definitely stay hot. It'll stay hot long enough to melt that little chunk at least. Okay. I don't mix so well with my left hand. Can you tell? I'll move you back. Hang on a minute. Okay, so if you can see, it's all mixed. If you really want, you can let it cool for a few moments, but if you let it sit too long, it will harden up and it'll be a booger to try to get into the other stuff. So I just kind of wanted you to see what it was like. Any excess oil that you end up with on your hands, just go ahead and, you know, don't let it go to waste. Put it to use. Come on, folks. Okay. So we got the Ninja, we got the emu oil in there. Kind of hard to see, I know. It's going to make a lot of noise. I do apologize for that, but it is kind of necessary in order to make the lotion. Cream. Now, one of the main key parts of this is the emulsification point, and I'm going to see if I can... There. Okay, so you're right on it. Once it starts going, keep an eye on how it's blending. And it'll initially look like it's not wanting to mix, it's not wanting to mix, it's not wanting to mix, and then there's going to come a point where everything kind of pauses, and then it mixes, and it'll be a really good blend. If you're going to use any kind of essential oil, now would be the time to add it, and you add it to this part, not the part you were cooking, otherwise you just cook it all off. The same with the emu oil. The emu oil's already been refined, so you add it to the cold stuff. Now, you go ahead and pour your hot oil in here, and you just start mixing. Keep an eye on that. Blending and blending and blending. Everything's still kind of warm. Okay, so we had a bit of a malfunction, and I forgot the bare basics beginner thing you never forget when making lotions. When you make your tea out of the aloe, make sure you put it back in the refrigerator and chill it. If you're in a hurry and you want to hurry up and get it done, you can put it in the freezer. But if you get it too cold, then the wax and the other products will freeze faster. But you definitely want it to be room temperature. That's why I didn't really want to mix. But we finally got it to the consistency that we're looking for. It's similar to the other lotion that I made, lotion recipe. You want to scrape down the sides. It's still fairly warm. I didn't really let it cool all that long. Scrape down the sides. But as you can see, it is creamy and it'll firm up once it cools more. Give it one more mix. If you don't want this stuff to stick in your blender or your mixer or your food processor or your Ninja, pour it like immediately. Don't let it sit like I do, because it becomes a lot more of a nuisance to clean later. This will make well over 16 ounces of mixed product, which in theory should last you many, many months. Yeah, there's an 8-ounce tub. Another 8-ounce tub. Sorry. It's a work in progress. And then some of a 4-ounce tub. Stuff will last for really for years, as long as you keep it out of the sun. You don't let it get hot. Don't expose it to a lot of air. Let it set for a while. It'll harden up, and once it's done, it can be used. I mean, it can be used right now. Put it on. It'll leave a little bit of a sheen for a couple minutes, and then that'll go away, and you won't even notice that it's there anymore. But yeah, that's the whole spiel. This is how it works. It's a fairly simple process. So you don't necessarily need to spend $50 a tub for something that science says will help keep your skin just as wrinkle free as one of those will. But you know, a lot of people don't want to put in this kind of effort either. It can be a pain in the butt to make this stuff all the time. But that's where it is. If you have any questions on how to do it, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, please give it a like and a share. And if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. And now that I've done this rather lengthy, tedious video, I can get back to the shorter ones that deal with the science of herbs and whatnot. And we'll get back into those here really quickly. But let us know what you think in the comment section below. And stay tuned for our next video. Thanks for watching.